Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this 20th anniversary celebration of the European Council of Doctoral Candidates and Junior Researchers' existence. Um, Today, we aim to have a cozy celebration, but note that it will be recorded. So, in case you do not wish to be on the recording, please turn off your cameras. And we will take a look back, take stock, and think, or maybe even dream about the future when it comes down to early career researchers. My name is Margot Kerschot. I'm a policy advisor at University of Antwerp, contributing to the Young Universities for the Future of Europe Alliance and a coordinator of a Horizon 2020 project on doctoral training. In my past, I also served as Eurodoc president, and today it is a delight to be here as your humble moderator. And um, if we think about Eurodoc, it all started even more than 20 years ago. Not formally, but initially in 2001, several members of national organizations representing early career researchers came together at a conference in Uppsala, in Sweden. And the conference was organized at the occasion of the Swedish presidency of the Council of the European Union. And it was also an initiative taken by doctoral candidates at the Uppsala Students' Union and from Swedoc, which is the Swedish Association of Doctoral Candidates. And during that conference, the participants recognized the need for establishing a European-wide organization or a voice to represent early career researchers that were largely absent from policy debates at that level. And they also took the initiative to create a network of national associations representing early career researchers. And as a result of those efforts, on the 2nd of February in 2002, the European Council of Doctoral Candidates was established in Girona in Spain. And later on, this also took a legal form as a not-for-profit association, an international not-for-profit association, and it was established in Brussels in 2005. And today we have the honor to have someone here who was already there at the origins of Eurodoc, namely research professor Toni Gabaldon from the Catalan Institution of Research and Advanced Studies. So please, Toni, take the word to share with us some memories and some inspiration concerning the origins of Eurodoc.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me well? Yes, okay. Because I happen to be in another meeting, so I came to my hotel room, and I think the internet connection is not very good here. So to me, it's a pleasure to be here and in the 20th anniversary of Eurodoc. That an art is very to my heart because, as it was said, I was there from the beginning. I remember those times when I was a PhD student, and we were, at that time fighting in Spain for basic rights, like, having social security or paternity or maternity leave, sick leaves, all these basic things were lacking for PhD students. We were just having like an stipend without any contract form. And we were starting to organize ourselves, and we realized in other countries they had organizations such as the one in Sweden that was the one leading, putting us together, inviting us to Uppsala to discuss among ourselves. And it was clear to us that there was a huge heterogeneity in the different countries, but also there was a need to have a common voice in front of European institutions, because it was at that level where things were being decided that were forcing, the different countries to adopt, for instance, rights for PhD students. So I think it was a very, this initial moment, it was very hard for us because many of the national associations were not formed in many countries. They were being formed at that time. But I think it was very inspiring for all of us. We learned a lot from our colleagues in the other countries, and we had a strong voice. Soon after our our forming, we were starting to be invited to debates and even to advise the European Commission in aspects such as mobility of researchers and so on. And I remember at those times we were starting to be involved in this code of conduct for researchers in Europe, and also the first discussions about what in the future was the European Research Council and the ERC grants and so on. And I think it has been very good that early stage researchers have had a voice, a direct voice, to talk to politicians and to give input, because, yeah, in a way, you are the future of research. So I think it's important to keep a strong voice. So I'm happy that 20 years passed and still alive and kicking. And I wish you all the best for the future. And it's an honor for me to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony, for those kind words, and also for mentioning what Eurodoc already started contributing to from its very beginnings, because it's not so easy to establish an organization and already get invited at those European level policy debates, because they're quite complicated. You need some knowledge. You also need to know the members' interests. And then on top of that, you need to be able to be there and represent. So I guess from the Eurodoc community, we could say thank you for having established this association together with the others, because all of the work is still very important. And indeed, especially in the beginning, it was also about basic rights for early career researchers. So thank you very much for being here and for your inspirational words and for your look back. And yes, we can also mention that Eurodoc was formally involved in the Bologna process. The Bologna process from 2003 started taking in doctoral programs in their topics. And from 2007 on, Eurodoc became a formal member of the Bologna follow-up group. Then also for the European higher education area and the European research area, Eurodoc has been asked for advice and has been contributing to the debates, not only in matters of mobility, as you mentioned, not only for the Code of Conduct and the Charter for Researchers, but also on aspects of research integrity, open access and open science, equality, doctoral training, and Eurodoc even managed to, together with other partners, place the topic of mental health for early career researchers on the policy agenda. And that was not an easy endeavor, because it also meant breaking a taboo on that topic. Now, I think if we, oh, and by the way, also not only in terms of the European Commission's work or in the European area, but also Eurodoc has been contributing to the OECD's work on researcher careers. And I think that's also very valuable to mention that Eurodoc was present in several working groups and even contributed to publications from the OECD. Now, in short, I always think, this is my opinion, and you can all add to that, that a good indication to see where has Eurodoc been in those years is when you see the words doctoral candidates, or when you see that doctoral candidates and junior researchers are treated as researchers and not just as students. And that's always, you know, if you see this happening, then you may think, I think Eurodoc might have been here somewhere behind the screens. And that's always good to know, because of course, actively voicing interest does not always mean that this will result in anything. And it's, even if it does, it's not always noticeable or not always visible. So also, apart from that, 20 years of existence is quite an achievement for an organization that is completely based on voluntary work. And also because this is in the national life of associations, they come, they thrive, they go a bit bust, but working and continuing for 20 years already in itself is an achievement. And then still being able to actively voice those interests and to bring those members together, that's already huge, we can say. Especially if you realize that Eurodoc really has managed to place itself and position itself among the European partner organizations. Now, on our menu for today, in our cozy celebration, we have a delicious panel of top-notch speakers present. And first, I would like to introduce Dr. Alexander Hasgal. He's head of the EUA Council for Doctoral Education, which is the largest European network in the field, covering 265 institutions from 36 countries. Now, before assuming his current position, he coordinated a program at the Swiss University Rectors Conference named Performance de la recherche en sciences humaines et sociales, and he was based at the University of Geneva. He wrote a doctorate at the University of Zurich on the topic Regimes of Recognition, Struggles over Truth and Justice in Dealing with the Last Military Dictatorship in Argentina, and also has a broad range of experience outside the higher education sector. For example, he was a human rights observer in Guatemala. He has a freelance journalist, so a very well-rounded and interesting background to contribute today. Our second speaker is Dr. Mustafa Munir Sharaf. He is and has been the chair of the Marie Curie Alumni Association since 2020. And after working 10 years in an academic environment in Austria, Belgium, the Netherlands, he moved into the semiconductor industry and is currently managing several European R&D projects. He's a high-level expert for a European project on knowledge ecosystems, and he contributed to the supervision guideline published by the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Actions units. His involvement in the Marie Curie Alumni Association has helped him understand the challenges faced by early career researchers and also researchers at different stages of their careers, and those coming from different scientific and geographical backgrounds. It has inspired him to become active and to organize training for mobile researchers in sustainable research careers, in science diplomacy, and entrepreneurship. Our third speaker for today is Dr. Ludovic Garatini. He received his PhD from the University of Paris in Science and Technology Studies, and his research focused on defining an intercultural modeling of sine qua non normative representations of techniques deemed necessary to achieve the techno-ecological transition to sustainable and inclusive societies. He has been involved in higher education and research for 15 years at in several positions and countries, such as the Ministry of Higher Education and Research in Paris, but also as an academic at universities in Paris, in Tokyo, in the Kobe University, and so on. But also, I would like to mention that he was there at the prestigious Conservatoire National des Arts et Métiers. Now, Ludovic is at the moment head of research and innovation and head of African programs within the Green Party Foundation in Sweden, the Green Forum. Our last speaker, and certainly not the least one, is Agnieszka Gera. She's currently the president of Eurodoc, and she was also already a secretary before and an open science ambassador for Eurodoc. Furthermore, she's a former vice president of the Polish National Association of Doctoral Candidates, KRD, and plenipotentiary for international cooperation. She is a doctoral candidate in the field of mechanical engineering and also a lecturer at the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering in the Krakow University of Technology in Poland. Scientifically, she deals with unconventional machining methods, especially with electro-discharge machining processes. So these are our speakers, and they will address three main questions. So after they all get 5 minutes more or less to answer the question, and after that we have time for some Q&A from the audience. So those that are in the Zoom meeting, they can raise their hands, and when it's their turn, they can turn on their microphone and ask their question orally. Those that are in the YouTube, watching us on YouTube, they can also post their questions there, and they will also be transferred back and read by us in this Zoom meeting. Now, let's think about a bit about the past, and let's ask our speakers, when did you hear about Eurodoc for the first time? And what was your first impression? So I guess for now, we might start with Alexander.
Thank you so much, Margot, and thank you very much to inviting me to this cozy celebration. And I'm sure it's just the start of the celebration, and we will follow it when we will meet in person and have in one of the future events a good drink where we can really celebrate again and again and again the anniversary of Eurodoc. And it's indeed, I think, a very important moment, not only for your association, but I think it's also for European universities, that this association really went to a situation where we are now, where you, and I will talk later about it, have become a really important group and stakeholder in actually all discussions we have nowadays. But let's go back. So in preparation of this session, I actually went through my mailbox. So I was looking when first mail came about Eurodoc, and I think I had my first conversation with the president at that time, Garrett, actually after 2 days in my new job. And the first meeting where, I don't know, we had a coffee or beer, or we met something else, where we met, I guess in Brussels, was less than 1 month before it was in Brussels of my job. So actually Eurodoc is really, has been from the beginning. And I know it's not only for me from the beginning of my job as head of UACD, but even also for my predecessors and the colleagues who have been much longer than I am connected to here will agree to that. So it has been something very early, and a connection which always remained. And I just looked into this list here of participants in this group here, and so many familiar names. It's incredible how many of you I have been able to see, to talk, and even more, at least to hear in your contribution. So what has been my impression of what is? So maybe the first, and everybody who has been working in a volunteer organization, as I did in previous moment of my life, knows how hard it is sometimes to motivate people, to sometimes act, to spend a lot of time, a lot of evening, a lot of weekends for this kind of common cause. And it's even harder if you are not with a group of some friends in the same neighborhood, but if you are actually spread out through Europe. And to see how much you are doing, and especially how really from each part of Europe people are involved in Eurodoc has been really impressive from the beginning. And this is maybe the second point which impressed me, is how much, especially when you're working like I do also in this area of doctoral education, how many knowledge, how many experience, how many insights you actually get by going to a Eurodoc conference. So also in the first year where I really got to learn Eurodoc was at the first Eurodoc conference, which was on site, and I think it was in Brussels, I'm not so sure anymore, but there it was great for me to really get insights about the situation of doctoral candidates in different parts of Europe. And at the end, doctoral candidates are the actual decision maker, I think, because the decision to start a doctorate, the decision to end it, the decision where you want to go in life, you cannot always decide on each detail, but taking these decisions are important. And to have this interaction with the people which actually are the source and are actually making the important decision for the doctorate and are the future leader also of research is really important, and was a great experience. And not only in talking, but also what you produce, the documents, the position paper, and so on. And the third element, and you already talked about this, Margot, is to see how all the stakeholders in this area really appreciate Eurodoc, interact with you, how you are the voice actually of the early career researchers in Europe. And 20 years sounds like a lot of time, but it's actually not. And I'm coming from EUA. We are now 21 years, so we are actually together. And I think this idea that we can together in Europe really build on a future for research and academia and university is great. And with that, I stop.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Maybe Mustafa wants to go next.
Yeah, first of all, I think you can hear me well, right? Okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much for the invitation. On behalf of MCAA, as well as personally, I would like to wish you all the best and happy anniversary, 20th year. I have quite a interesting story when I first heard about Eurodoc. It was basically during my PhD. I was a part of a Mary Skłodowska-Curie action program. And at that time, as part of that program, you needed to submit a career development plan. So I wanted to see what are the options. So other than really getting trained in career development, and what are the organizations who are working on that. I searched and I found that's the first time I actually heard about the Eurodoc. It was in 2013 Lisbon conference. Unfortunately, by the time I got that, the deadline was over and I could not join. At the beginning, I just thought that it's a very interesting organization. Then my second encounter was while I was the chair of MCAA Austrian chapter in 2017. I think we basically, MCA was invited, and our treasurer at that time presented the scope of collaboration between Eurodoc and MCAA. The more close collaboration between Eurodoc as well as personally with me started when basically Gareth became the president, who basically established a very close relationship with Eurodoc and MCAA. Especially if we can look back the history of working together for the open science, for the Plan S, for example. We worked together in the Plan S monitoring task force. We worked together from the MCAA annual conference in 2019, published the declaration of sustainable researcher career, numerous policy statement and research statement, as well as for Horizon Europe. Topics like researcher assessment, topics like, as you mentioned at the beginning, mental health. If you look at the scope of collaboration, for example, between MCAA and Eurodoc, some of our common members we have common members in both organizations. I can see some familiar faces already here, but also there are really nice initiatives like Remo Cost Action Mental Health, where both Eurodoc and MCA members are taking part. So over the years, we worked together, we grew together as an association, and we hope that we will continue this relationship, this collaboration, and work towards raising the voice of early career researchers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mustafa, as well. And indeed, collaboration is key, especially when we are all researchers aiming to get our interests voiced on certain topics. So thank you very much. Let's now hear from our older, or not older physically, I would say, because he certainly doesn't look that way, but I would say earlier president of Eurodoc, because Ludo was already president in 2011. So Ludo, what do you think? When did you hear about Eurodoc for the first time?
Well, that's a very fun story, actually, since it's quite surprising, but fate works in mysterious ways. I was there for the 10-year celebration because it was at the end of our term in our board in Poland, organized amazingly by KID and the board. And so I'm very happy to be there 10 years later. It didn't feel like 10 years. But since we're here to have a cozy event, I mean, I think it's really better I share like some interesting stories. So maybe people can understand part of this amazing DNA that Eurodoc has. So as Tony mentioned, when I came to know about Eurodoc, the organization was already 10 years. And, as you said yourself, Margot, it's like I mean, the metaphor, I'm just going to make a metaphor out of what you said, but it's like a living organism. It goes up and down. And the time that I arrived in Eurodoc was terrible. The participation was really low. There were great divide. It was politically stressful. So actually, I get to learn about Eurodoc. Let's start with that. When I came up to the General Assembly of the CGC, I was a PhD candidate in France back in the days. And they were just asking, we shall vote to have national representatives at Eurodoc. And I was like, what is Eurodoc? I was like, oh, it's the European Federation. And surprisingly enough, I wasn't elected because no one wanted to participate. So I got chosen because I was the only one. And I was very surprised. I've always been a pro-European. I think I come from that generation that really believed in Europe. I hope it's still the case among scientists here. But so I got catapulted in this amazing event that was organized for the European higher education area and the research area in Vienna. And there, I remember during one session, I've noticed there was an, sorry for, I'm not being rude to old people. There was a very old research advisor professor who was saying, I don't understand your struggle. I mean, being young researcher is just a state of mind. That decided me to really participate actively in Eurodoc. So because it's something that I heard in France and we were fighting against, we actually proposed her to go back to having McDonald's coupons and drop her salary if she wanted to be just like us. So the thing is, like, at that moment, Eurodoc was very interesting, and I decided to step up as a candidate for the elections in Lithuania, if I remember correctly, because, you get involved in those associations because you believe something is worth it, like the struggle. They were, as Tony described, even in 2011, the situation was not good in Europe. During the presidency, we had a couple with a baby in Hungary, in Budapest. They were sleeping outside. They were homeless. We had 2 suicides in the organization, one in Italy, I think the other one was in Spain. So that really got me, how do you say that? That's not enthusiastic, but let's say very angry, especially because inside Eurodoc, there were a big divide, the East Bloc against the West Bloc. So the whole year, we tried really to make, I think, what I can bring from what I learned from Eurodoc is the human side. It was a lot of humanity. We even did actually our General Assembly in Krakow, and I've asked everyone to join us so we could go to Auschwitz and Birkenau. And that was a very important moment because I believe then we just noticed what science could do and technology at their worst. And it really united us all. So I came to know about Eurodoc like this, completely by surprise, by chance, but then I get very much involved. And I'm happy to say that we managed to do 2 General Assemblies during the year. And I hope it carried for time. I don't know what has happened in the last 10 years, so maybe you can tell me more. But this is what we wanted to have Eurodoc fighting for. I've read some statements about mental health, about open science, so I believe the message has been still carried out. And I'm going to stop here because I'm close to 5 minutes.
Thank you for keeping track of time, Ludo. Yes, indeed. I wanted to say thank you also for this honest look into how it was before. And I must say that indeed, at least from my experience when I was, that the East and West divide has been turned into a more collaborative involvement. And that's really key because, of course, we're all here for the same things, and the human side indeed is important. But I think the one that can really tell you more about that is Agnieszka Żyra, our current president. So Agnieszka, what would you like to mention? How did you learn about Eurodoc?
Thanks, Margot, for the introduction, and hello to everyone today. My first meeting with Eurodoc was in 2018 while I was a vice president of CARD. because the president was Ewelina Pagańczyk-Wlazło, who was the former president of Eurodoc. And she said that that's a great organization. There are great people and we can do a lot with them together. And it's high time to also to engage me there. And basically, that time I thought that Eurodoc is really serious organization with really serious people. And then I met Gareth. And after meeting him, the first impression was that he's a great guy, but he's got a lot of ideas and huge knowledge, of course, but he's really nice person. He was mentioned today. Now he's mentioned for the third time, so something is with him. But after talking with him, we decided also with Ewelina that we'll try to organize the Open Science Workshop in Warsaw. And we did it. We asked our Ministry of Higher Education to help us to organize this meeting, and they helped us. They helped us with the financial support. And I have to say that that was a great opportunity for me to meet great people, to collaborate with Gareth, to start collaborating with Eurodoc, because I was responsible for organizing this workshop. And when all of the people who are here also today came to Warsaw, where we organized the workshop, I saw just a great team, really engaged people, really happy, open. And that was really fun. And I also really liked that they liked our small gifts, because that was basically connected, related to Poland and Polish traditions, some sweets, and they were really happy that that we gave it to them. So that at that point, I knew that it will be a great collaboration and that I want to do something more in the organization. And I stayed, basically.
Yes, you definitely stayed and became president. That's great. Yes, indeed, what we have been hearing here is that the international intercultural exchange in Eurodoc is really one of its valuable assets. Are there any questions from the audience? Remember that you can post them or that you can raise your hands in the Zoom, or that you can also post them via YouTube. But think about it, because of course we now have those speakers here, and maybe you also want to ask them something, or maybe you want to share some thoughts or an anecdote on how you met or you became acquired with Eurodoc. So I don't see any. Ludo?
No, I actually have an anecdote about Gareth, because
okay,
because we keep talking about Gareth, and I remember, I think in Poland it was his first time. Like, this is where he kind of decided to be, on Eurodoc or not. And we were spending every single night up until 2 a.m. talking about this. I remember he was so passionate that I was like, oh man, this man is going to do great in Eurodoc. So yeah, just an anecdote about Gareth. He has been passionate from day one, even if he waited a bit before campaigning for presidency.
Mustafa, I see you.
Probably still he is quite passionate, right? I mean, that's the great thing about him. I mean, as I said, he not only started the collaboration with MCAA. This, when we were talking about these issues, challenges of the early career researchers. So bringing the organization like us in one platform, fighting together for different policy issues. This is one, there are many people involved, but Gareth was one who was really taking the lead there, and MCAA as well, as we are quite grateful for that. And I think, as Alexander was telling at the beginning, that the decision basically affects, and the PhD or early career researcher should be the decision maker. We are far away from that. but that is our goal. And if we want to achieve that, the first step was basically working together. And that was basically possible for him and together with a lot of other colleagues.
Yes, thank you. It's true. He was a president that really managed to take Eurodoc a step further in many things. And to that day, to today, we still benefit from that because he did indeed have already quite some experience, knowledge, and on how to move things forward, and is also a funny, a funny guy.
Yeah,
That manages
he can teach
to
you
get
Gaelic.
people. Yes. So, well, if we don't have further questions, we might go over to our next and think a bit about what makes academia a sustainable and supportive environment for early career researchers. Is there a panelist who wants to go first? I see Ludo, you want to, or Mustafa unmuted. Yes, you are first.
You can go ahead, Ludo. I can.
Go, Mustafa.
Sorry, go for it.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's quite an interesting question, because as we were talking at the beginning, where to start? I mean, when we talk about the academic sustainability or sustainability for the early career researcher, there are different parts. There are quite integral part, like when we talk about the researcher career sustainability. Sustainability in terms of funding for research, ensure proper research environment. Probably we could bring all this umbrella topic and talk about like, there are different policy statement as well as recommendation from organizations like us. But I would like to probably focus on what we already did together, basically declaration on the sustainable researcher career, where we talk really to the policymaker, to the organization, that what are needed. And these are the issues, these are the topics which are normally not tackled by the universities or organization, or no one was basically, I would say that taking that into consideration. These are providing sustainable careers prospect for researcher, deploy career management services, then put more emphasis on transferable skills, for example, and then the networking opportunities. Even if we go like the first one, when we talk about the prospect for researcher, and as we all know, there is a big debate on sustainability of the research career, but at the same time, the precarity, I know for sure that Eurodoc was also contributing in OECD work or statement. This understanding, and especially and when I mentioned the stakeholder, all stakeholder needs to understand these challenges. I mean, it's quite, I would say, at the same time inspiring to hear what Ludo said at the beginning, but also sad to see what the researchers need to fight for. I mean, so now if we look at or give the kind of bullet points that what makes academia sustainable. As I said at the beginning, the stable and long-term funding for the research. I mean, we all know the story of the less funding. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but this 3% investment from the GDP, I mean, we all know, we all are talking about, I think at the same time, when the Eurodoc was started in 2005, that was the year when this was proposed, but we still are talking about during the 20th year celebration. So that's pity, I would say. Then the overall research environment, and here we would like to focus on the research culture itself. And this research culture probably is an umbrella term when we talk about the issues of the open science, how the researchers' assessment are valued. And these are all the integral part. And I'm glad that there are some different initiatives which are started over the past couple of years, I would say. For example, the push from Eurodoc, NCAA, Young Academy of Europe, and many other organizations, including UEA, Science Europe. Right now, European Commission is starting this researcher assessment initiative. I'm really looking forward, because I think after Panelist, this would be one of the main topic which can ensure the sustainability in academia. I'm really looking forward, because it's really a complex issue that what it entails and how this would be in reality implemented. I'd stop here and would love to listen to the other speaker.
Thank you. Who would like to go next? And
Can go next if you want.
yes. I was
Right.
nodding. Yes, I thought you saw it.
Sorry, no, I didn't see it. Well, okay, it's a birthday, so anecdotes, nice stories. I remember that was very tense meeting. We were with the European Commissioner at that back then, and it was Mary Goyen Quinn, if I remember correctly. Yeah, of course, I will remember her all my whole life. And just a note on that for academia is, I remember she was gloating. They were all stakeholders, and she was there, and she was gloating and like, oh, how fantastic the situation of early stage research. No, she didn't say that. The PhD students is quite improved in Europe, and then came with those interesting narrative that were inherited from the early 2000s, never proved by science on, I don't know if it's still going on at the European level, like, oh, and by the way, we need 1.5 million researchers. It was all into a kind of geopolitical, narrative that were built to position Europe in competition with the United States, Japan, and so on. And I remember that was maybe 2 weeks after we had our suicide in Italy, and I was furious. And I told her, this is not correct. We had published then the Eurodoc survey on the situation of early stage researchers in 12 European countries. It was quite a long work. It took us almost 4 years to treat this data, and we managed during the presidency to actually have an event in the parliament in Strasbourg about this publication. And the situation was disastrous. So I remember I told her that, and for the anecdote, after the meeting, she comes to me and we start to have a talk, and she says, oh, but we're building these nice facilities for researchers. And what I told her, and I don't know if I took a bit of liberty here, but I think my board supported me. I said, it's pointless to invest in nice marble labs if you have no one in it. So the message was, you have to invest in people. The people are making science. Of course, it's nice to have, big particle accelerators, but the message was that. So the situation for academia, for me, is about that. It's like, I don't know how is the situation now. I have followed a little bit the situation in France. It has bettered, like social sciences are getting more doctoral contracts, which was unexpected and pretty much a big dream in France 10 years ago. But that's what is a safe environment, is you invest in people, you secure them. All the fights that actually we're having Eurodoc. I don't know if they're the same now, but I believe so. 2 minutes, 40 seconds.
It's fine, don't worry.
I used to talk so much, so I have to control my...
Wow, I'm positively surprised. No, just kidding. So
no, she knows me. She is not kidding.
So who would like to add to the discussion? Yes, go ahead, unmute and you can speak.
Should I? Okay. Yeah. So I think first I need just to repeat this broken record from Mustafa. And yes, we indeed need more the funding and the funding goal reached, because I know when we talk about need of funding, it sounds, yeah, university always ask for funding, and that's true, but it's just the case. If we want to have also that movement away to the unique focus on project funding, which of course contributes a lot to the precarity of early stage researchers, when we want to have more basic funding, because basic funding leads to good jobs and especially to sustainable jobs, then we need the funding and also these changes. But since not just to repeat what the colleagues said, and maybe one dilemma which is maybe interesting to discuss when we speak about sustainability also in careers is, so one point, if we wanted the society understand the value of the doctorate, and this includes employers, but everybody else involved, is that we need to communicate to the society. We need to show what we are doing. We need to understand early stage researchers, especially doctoral candidates, but then also postdoc, as these bridges which are actually leading from the university to non-university sector, or in the university who become, for instance, professors, teaching the new generation of students. So a sustainable bridge has a start, but it leads really to the other place. At the other time, I think it's also important to be aware of that you cannot really ask doctoral candidate to do everything. And we have also a risk that we overwhelm people by saying, you need to do your doctorate and it should be good. And this is still the center of the doctorate, the quality. And I can really recommend everybody still focus on that, because it doesn't make sense not to really work on research if you do a doctorate, because that's the essence. But then there is plenty of other demands and increasingly question. And it's not, these are not bad demands. They're actually good. And as I said, we need also researchers who do all this training, all these additional activities and so on. So what we need to look, if you ask me how we get these sustainable careers, how we also tackle the precarity we see, is that we need to find ways how to actually juggle between, on one hand, early stage research, focusing on the research, on the basic research, and interacting with society and addressing other demands. So this is maybe one small contribution which I wanted to make.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Agnieszka, what would you like to mention that makes academia a sustainable environment for ECRs, early career researchers?
It is hard not to agree with all previous speakers, because all of you touched really important things. I would maybe want to say about our dream. What is our dream? Basically, the perfect situation is the stable working conditions for early career researchers in academia, also for postdocs, because unfortunately it still doesn't look good in some countries. It is connected with precarity, which was mentioned by Mostafa, and we basically advocate for it really strongly. Then I would say and point academic freedom, which is still a really important thing. And unfortunately, we still have some signals that it is not good in some countries. Also, it's important to point that we produced a statement about academic freedom in Slovenia, and I hope it was seen and heard, our voice in that issue. Also, really important thing is the mental health, which, especially in pandemic time, it's a hot topic and should be considered as a really important topic, and it should be understood really broaden. It's not only about it touches every part of our life, because we are while working remotely, sometimes we are overwhelmed with all the duties because we don't have time. We don't have this difference between working time and time for rest, because we are doing everything at home. So sometimes it's really hard to keep this balance, this healthy balance. So it should also be pointed, and basically academia should also somehow help and support not only ERICA researchers, I would say the whole academics, the whole society, the academic society. What is really important and was also mentioned by Alexander is science communication, which is really important nowadays. And I think we still have a problem with it because we can't say why this what we are doing is important and why it has an impact for society. And society doesn't understand us and also doesn't support us because they don't understand us. So basically they can say, what you are doing at this university, it's not important and we don't need it because they don't understand. What is, I think, the huge thing which can be mentioned, I would say building networks, relationships between researchers, also working in such a great organizations as Eurodoc, because working also in academia gives us such a possibility. And we are building networks, small social, sometimes events also. So that's great because it helps us to develop ourselves also, and sometimes it gives us a possibility for collaboration for mobility issues. So that's great. And I would say that also, of course, it was mentioned before, transferable skills, but also soft skills are really important in academia, and also it helps us to develop ourselves, and sometimes it helps to find our place in the world, not only in academia, but also outside. But I would say that building these relationships, networks is really, really important, and we should improve it.
Thank you. Indeed, those were many aspects that are highly relevant, that I even see a heart here from Irina. And I saw an applause earlier from Sebastian. So indeed, it is important to create networks, relationships, to also find a way to get people to understand us, or to understand science and academia. What's the value of research, especially in times of fake facts and so on, but also to make sure that indeed really touched upon this subject, because I believe that everybody is getting a bit tired of it by now, but the pandemic that also had an impact, and that can make those mental health issues even stronger. So luckily the topic was already on the policy agenda, or otherwise it might have been even worse. And so, yeah, I think we have touched on a lot of topics. And I see a question from Deborah.
Yes, thank you. I've got a question at two levels, in fact, because they talk about assessment in the way of European assessment, in fact, in way of culture and also research assessment. I'm wondering what is the place of research integrity in the way of European assessment, in fact, and also in a personal and national aspect. What is the place of research integrity for early stage researcher, in fact, and personal aspect? Maybe it's a hard question.
Is there any of the speakers who would like to respond to Deborah Sherry?
Yeah, maybe Alexander, if you want to go ahead. Or okay. Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I think when we are talking about research integrity and how it is really integrated with the research culture, I think there are a lot of recommendations from organizations like ours that this should be included. If I remember correctly, as I said, that right now there would be a coalition where basically different stakeholder organization, including all universities, including organizations like ours, who will be kind of draft the future of research assessment. There is a scoping report published by the DGRTD where they published this report based on consultation with close to 100 organizations, including Eurodoc, including EUA, including MCAA. There, if I remember correctly, I need to check, their research integrity was one of the key points mentioned. So, I mean, I think we don't need to debate among ourselves that this is vitally important. What we need to do is to convince the policymakers, convince the people who are, or convince the universities here. Alexander is there, probably he can take the lead after me, that this is a core issue. So yeah, that's just a very short answer from myself.
Thank you, Mustafa. Alexander.
Yes, thanks, Deborah. For the questions, yes, obviously research integrity is really key. We will publish in a month actually a survey we just did about doctoral education in Europe, where actually we asked our members, so what are your key priorities in the institutions? And the first priority was actually quality of supervision, which is somehow also an evergreen, because supervision always remains in the core actually of the role of doctoral schools in supporting this. And number two was research ethics and integrity. So this is when we look in the strategic priorities really in the center, when we also asked, for instance, which trainings are mandatory. And as you know, most trainings in Europe are voluntary. So you are not forced to do this and this and this, but there is in many universities, when it comes to research integrity, the understanding everybody needs research integrity. Maybe not everybody needs the same amount of science communication or some other elements, but research, you cannot do research without research ethics and integrity. So I would say from the perspective of universities, as priorities is really high. Of course, you must see how much can you do, what you should do, and so on. And when it comes to research assessment, I would say it's one of the key drivers of the whole movement, which also Mustafa mentioned in Europe, but also worldwide, to see why do we need to reform research assessment. There are many reasons, but one key reason is that we see if we have a system where people are forced to publish as much as possible, as fast as possible, there will be problems that people will not publish really to the high standards in some cases. Mostly they do it, but there is this risk. So I would say the whole discussion we have about research assessment cannot be completely separated from the discussion about research ethics and integrity.
I would just add a short note to that, because due to the work I have now, I believe, and that's what connects the work of every members in Eurodoc to the world. There is way more value than just the fight for academia in that topic, and it should fuel your anger and your work to actually pursue that at local, national, and even European level. It's even becoming geopolitical and political these days. Scientists are being distrusted. The kind of politics we're having in the world are threatening, I wouldn't say the ivory tower, because this is the problem. We are perceived as, belonging to the ivory tower, but the validity of the scientific consensus and assessment. And that's a major threat on the whole world, especially with the climate crisis we're having right now. We cannot have, evaluations with like wet fingers, as we say in French, au doigt mouillé, because it's absolutely needed to have serious and competent people trying to support important policy and political decisions to be made in a very conflicted world right now. So just to add to this note, it goes way beyond, and that should be a cheval de bataille, like maybe a cheval de Troie. It's going to become a Trojan horse, who knows, for your fight.
Thank you very much for that addition, Ludo. Is there anyone else who wants to mention something to the topic, wants to react? Darren? Yes?
Hello. Hi guys. Hi, Dublin calling, 12 points. So yeah, regarding precarity, and yeah, regarding the topic you were just speaking about there, the assessment, like I'm sort of thinking we're assessing researchers to do what next? Because most researchers, yeah, like I did my PhD because I loved research. I love discovering new things, and I wanted to continue on in academia. And yeah, I did. I'm still an academic. But like, various studies have shown that up to 80% of people who start a postdoc do so because they want to remain in academia and do the academic career track. Other studies show that 1 to 5% maybe of postdocs actually secure an academic position, or maybe 10%. It depends on the discipline, but there's a lot of variety, but there's a really small proportion of those who go on to a postdoc with a view to academia. And then all the training you receive while you're a postdoc is very academically focused and doesn't really open your horizons to industry or, like, to be honest, where you will probably end up, because it is very difficult to secure that position. Like in Ireland, there's a hiring freeze at the moment for academics. So yeah, anyway, and yeah, it is difficult. So we're assessing our researchers against a job in industry or against a job in academia. What's more important? Is there alternative career tracks in academia being planned that research staff can avail of, such as a research scientist? I know in the States they have research scientist roles in the Broad Institute and various other high-performing research organizations. In Ireland, we don't have such a role. I think France, does in some of their institutions, and a few countries do, but most don't. So if you can't become an academic, then by necessity you're on precarious rolling one-year contracts until you have to get a mortgage, buy a house and start a real life, and then you have to go wherever you go. I think I read an interesting report, it might have been tweeted by Eurodoc a couple of days ago, that over half the people with a PhD are working in a job that doesn't require a PhD. So like when you read that type of data, you're like, why do the PhD and get paid very little for 3 to 4 to 5 years and put your life on hold for that time and do a postdoc, again, getting paid relatively little compared to private industry? And recording stopped. Oh God, did I go on too long? I've gone on. Recording's back. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But it'd be interesting to hear some. Yeah, I think Ludo wants to come in on that.
Yeah, I see Ludo as well. But Ludo, you're muted.
Because I don't want to. If there's anyone that wants, it's a very important topic. I'm very happy to comment on this, but we are many here. So I'll go if no one wants to go. Just my little contribution or opinion about this. I remember that it was maybe one of the most important working group that we had when we were trying to define, actually it was with, oh damn it, what was the organization based in London? I'm getting too old. I will remember it later. Trying to define, trying to build bridges. It was the big thing in the early 2010, build bridges between academy and we call it the PPP, the private-public partnerships and so on. So I don't know how it is now, but I remember now stories. I will not bore you with data and stuff. What convinced me that there's an enormous value, and that was the work of Eurodoc, so to show it, of research in pretty much everywhere. We're saying back in the days, research everywhere for everyone. It was really much like giving, outside of academia. Was I remember PhD candidates in France were coming back. He had like a contract in a city hall. He made his research 3 years in the city hall. His results really created an earthquake in the city hall because he called on I'm not too long. He called on so many dysfunctional processes within sociology. He actually eventually got fired, but they took on the results. The city hall really got better after that. Now the work I'm doing now, I'm not working in academia. I'm working for a foundation that is connected to a political party. And I see that what we're starting here is things that would have never happened if they hadn't brought like a research in it. Meaning, instead of doing programs, in Africa, like any development aid, which is super neocolonialistic, super paternalistic, like the white people, most of the time coming to poor countries and give money and programs, they're re-questioning the very fundamentals of their activity. And we may be be the only foundation to do that in our group of partners in Europe, where we questioning the roots of what means democracy and what means the environmental issues in different cultures. So that's what I described with my very long introduction that you can read on the website. So my point is, I don't know where Eurodoc is at or how the society evolves around. I can still see at my private, my very individual level that it's not there yet, but there's an enormous value to bring research everywhere outside of the academia.
Thank you.
Can I jump in if there are some time?
Okay. We can make some time.
Okay.
And yes, can I just mention something? Sorry. In the meantime, everybody put your smile on and turn on your cameras for a picture. But Mustafa, please go.
Yeah, that's really quite an interesting topic. I remember when I started my own career, this percentage was what Darren was mentioning, was basically 12%. And then I remember I had a talk with Alexander in Romania, the presidency event. At that time, the number was already 7%, I think, or 5%. Now it's 5%. Now, this you mentioned quite an important topic. I mean, this is also related with some other factors. In 2017, we made a MCAA-wide survey where we received over 5,500 researchers reply. And one of the major reply was basically that some researchers are, well, finding a job in academia is of course a challenge, but also who has job, some are even moving due to the politics in academia, due to the issues that they don't want to be a professor, they want to do research. They're passionate about research. And here I mentioned and probably it's kind of maybe, I would say, a bit of misinformation and misconception, because if you look at the Leroux survey, which was published in 2017, in reality, 49% of the European researchers are actually in private sector. Who has a PhD, yeah, and I think in universities it was 10 or 20%.
But employed for their research, for the capacity to do research, or
exactly. So that means actually that in reality there are other career paths, but these are not kind of promoted from the different institutional level. Yeah, so this is something which needs to be changed, number one. And here the value of data, the value of assessment is quite important. And yeah, Darren, you mentioned quite an interesting topic. And I know in Austria, there are some organizations who are slowly starting this position called staff scientist. It's not a postdoc, it's a senior scientist. And you don't teach, you do research in academia. I truly hope that there are more positions like that even in academia. Just one last note about the researcher assessment. We give a lot of emphasis on researcher assessment, but if you look at the scoping report, which I put in the link, there are actually 4 types of research assessment, which one is the research proposal, so funding proposal assessment, researcher assessment, but at the same time, research unit, what I understood is the research groups assessment and the research infrastructure assessment. So it would be interesting to see how this is basically tackled in terms of the precarity and how this is tackled by the universities and organizations. So yeah, just some concluding thought on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Julia?
Yes, thank you everyone for this interesting panel and for speaking about research assessment. Of course, from the time where Ludovic was in Eurodoc, a lot of things change, and we have now a very positive environment in Eurodoc. Of course, there are national associations who are fighting because of the pandemic situation, which has created some gaps between us because of we couldn't meet for a long time. And in particular, my board never met, and it was very hard. But now, and it's also demonstrated by what Alexander said, the environment is good. We are very well known about the stakeholders. With the stakeholders, we are doing a lot of policies. So it's awesome what the new board is doing. And I wish all the best for Eurodoc in the next years.
Thank you very much, Julia, for those words. I see hearts, I see applauses. And now over to Alexander.
Dear all, just one small request from my side. My name is Alexander. I'm a general board member. We would like to take a photo of you and may ask you to smile for like 30 seconds and switch on your cameras if possible, just for several seconds, so we take a nice anniversary photo like Margot is doing at the moment. So please, yes, just for a second. Okay, Evgenia, please, if possible. Hanin, if you have your camera. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, hello. 1 second. All right, just one more for the history. Okay, so open science, let's say open science. Many thanks, so let's continue.
All together.
Thank you, Oleg. Julia, was there anything else you wanted to mention? No? Okay.
No, I was wondering if everybody were saying open science loudly. It's actually nice.
Okay, well, Eva.
Hello, I would like to also congratulate the Eurodoc to this 20 years, and I have been involved also since 2015, so it's a lot of time, and the network is amazing with the colleagues that we could improve our own skills, but also help to the society to develop. And I think there is really the potential of Eurodoc, as Alexandra mentioned at the beginning, to raise the voice, or Tony, at the European level in the discussion and really improve the conditions. So we have this potential. So congratulations, and I hope that we will all together continue to collaborate together also after to improve the doctoral training and education.
Thank you very much, Eva. As I don't see any further hands or questions, let us now move to the final question for our panelists and continue our discussion with a look into the future. What will the European research area look like in 10 years? Is there a panelist who wishes to go first? Mustafa this time? Or
sure,
yes?
I can. I mean, first of all, I mean, you were talking about 10 years, so that means it would be 30 years of Eurodoc, almost 20 years of MCAA. First, let's go back to the basic. I mean, do we know what researcher mean? I mean, there is the definition of Frascati manual, there are definition of ESCO classification, but is it actually commonly understood by all stakeholders? I mean, we know what research means, but is it commonly understood and agreed by all stakeholders? So this is a very important point. I mean, Alexander mentioned, and I think in another event, we also talked about this definition, but also right now there are a lot of information that, okay, researchers should do research, but together they should do science communication, they should do science diplomacy, they should contribute in science policy, they should do this and that. Well, not everyone needs to do everything, but still, do we have a framework? The answer is no. There is a researcher career development framework by Vita, but there is no researcher's competence framework yet, which is basically agreed and basically maintained by everyone. So first we need to define that, and I think this project by DGRTD, they are actually starting it. So it would be interesting to see what is there, what is exactly are there. So I would like to see in 10 years from now on. So one, I mean, if you ask me the wish list, we would probably not finish it today, but one, that researchers' role is recognized everywhere, understood by everywhere, and then it's implemented in their working condition, in their assessment, and in basically in everyday life. And then when we talk about a couple of big bullet points, just to food for thought, and I'm sure the other speakers will also have some other comments. And One is, we talked about the assessment. We talk about a lot in last 10 years, the metrics, the indicators, but we always forget, and we almost never integrate the behavioral competency. I mean, Eurodoc as well as NCAA, we all know about the harassment issues, the bullying issues in academia. As long as this behavioral competence is not part of the researcher assessment, we will not progress. So I would really like to see that this is actually integrated in the future researcher assessment. Then now probably a bit more from the application perspective. I mean, the research, what we do, whether they are translated for the economic development, for the sustainable development. We have really big challenge. I mean, Ludovic probably is much more experienced than me. What are we doing as a community? What type of research are we doing to tackle the challenges of future? The climate, I mean, pandemic is one of the great examples what researchers could do. And in order to do that, what support these different stakeholders, different actors will provide. I truly hope that there would be some adequate support. Then again, in order to tackle such challenges, we also need to understand each other. By each other, I mean that academic research should not be concentrated or focused on academia only. There should be intersectoral collaboration. There should be intersectoral mobility among researchers. If we look at very quickly some readings from 2019 Moore survey, I think among IIII mobility, basically intersectoral, interdisciplinary, and international, intersectoral was least significant in terms of mobility, at the same time in terms of collaboration from academia. I think this is something in a European research area needs to be improved. Then also, I think it was Agnieszka who already mentioned about the freedom, the value of freedom. I mean, sometimes who has it probably do not realize the value of it. So this is something we really need to ensure, the promoting the global values, principles, academic freedom, promoting the European open science. We talked a lot about the researcher well-being, so mental health and all this. And what I would like to see, all the topic I mentioned, a coordinated action from all the stakeholders, where researchers' feedback, really researchers' feedback, and especially early career researchers' feedback are taken into account, and a policy is made, and that policy is successfully implemented. So that would be my wish list. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. Any of the speakers that would like to follow up?
Yeah, actually, it's quite similar to what Mustafa said in a different way. I don't think I can answer the question no one can answer. So I'll totally take the liberty, the freedom to change it to what I wish and not what will be the situation 10 years from now. I think what I really would like to see, and it comes both from, of course, my time in Eurodoc, the troubled times we had, of course, also, and the work I'm doing right now, is a bit more of what Eurodoc does, but everywhere, meaning a bit more of, I'll say the word, sorry for that, but political involvement of people. We have a responsibility as researchers. I understand the great image we have of the scientists that we were raised with as scientists, because there's a raising as being scientists, either as children or as PhD candidates, where we are completely dedicated to our research with no connection with the world, but the topic, and it's a freedom and an ideal that we have been fighting for a while. But I believe this is outdated. I believe this is also connected to the integrity talk we had. We have responsibilities. I mean, sorry to quote Marvel movies, but with great powers comes great responsibilities. And I believe we're all superheroes and we have great powers because of our training. This just is a call for everyone to try to incorporate in the research this reality that is around, and therefore be more responsible. So what I would like to see in 10 years from now is legions of scientists that have been out there, getting out of the universities, are conscious as well as self-conscious. And I believe that if we can create this critical mass, we will be able to move things forwards. And that's why Eurodoc exists. This was the raison d'être of Eurodoc.
Thank you. Agnieszka, yes.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I would say that I would love to hear that in the next 2 years there will be completely different problems. According to European Research Area, that we'll be thinking what to do, because we have so much money which is dedicated to research, to universities, and to early career research development, that we need to try somehow, I don't know, spread or limit it, maybe. That it will be possible to create really nice research environment, which is pleasant for everybody, and that there will be no problems with academic freedom issues, and that we wouldn't need to think about that if the society understands us, as Mustafa already pointed. So we'll be only thinking how to improve ourselves and how to communicate it better, because we have a great audience, but we want to have much bigger. And I think that also I wish that in these 10 years, we would need to try to also limit somehow the positions of early stage researchers and postdocs, because we will have so many people who want to be engaged in the science that the early career researcher society will be really big, and yes, and that we will need to think in other ways, not to how to make it more attractive, but yeah, I'm just joking, but don't want I want to say these positive things, that everything which is planned in European Research Area will be gained within these 10 years. That would be great, perfect, and hope that really minor problems will occur in these next 10 years, and the improvement which will be needed will be really minor.
Thank you, Agnieszka. A dream where all problems are mere luxury problems seems wonderful indeed. Last, but certainly not least, Alexander.
Yes, thank you so much. I really don't want to have the last word here, but I'm sure you will have more conversation later. So I was extremely impressed also when Ludovic started telling some anecdote and history of Eurodoc, and about, it seems, this very big differences between, for instance, East and West and maybe others, and then to see, I mean, we speak about 20 times, how you may have overcome them, not maybe once, but maybe sometimes they come up again, then you need to overcome them again. And what we see here, just looking into this chat, it shows there has been done an extremely important work, and also set an example, I think, not only for the world of doctoral education, but maybe for many other areas in this world now, where we see there is these risks of divides, and there is the issues that we need to find, again, common languages, common ways, and without giving up diversity. So Eurodoc, and this is when you go to a Eurodoc event and you don't see, okay, now there's just Eurodoc, you still see the different backgrounds. So when we speak about in 10 years and the future, I think, and the vision is that we also use this what research can do, and early stage research especially, to overcome actually differences while maintaining this diversity. And I don't think it's only geographically. So a big discussion, as you all know, it's about disciplines and interdisciplinarity. Should we give up disciplines and become interdisciplinary? And I don't think that this is really the way to go, because we need both. We need disciplines, and the doctorate is usually disciplinary and will probably stay like this, but we need a lot of interdisciplinary research. We need fundamental research, but at the same time also dealing with real challenges our world is confronted with. I think in the university, I'm not sure if we should go in a way where you have at the end only researchers and only teachers. I think that you bring the different missions together, that as a researcher, you're also involved in learning and teaching is something really valuable while you still stay with what you're doing. And when we speak about career, probably the same. Doing a doctorate is an experience which really supports you. And even if in the job description of your first or second job after doctorate, there is not the requirement doctoral candidates, we also know very often it will help you in your life, and it will give you the opportunity to provide something maybe in 5 years. We know that often the lot of skills you can acquire are helpful. And I just want to mention Eurodoc you work on making skills visible. They have been also very important. So when we look in 10 years, there will hopefully be understanding by the researchers themselves, that they understand what their skills are, by the employer to understand what you get when you have a doctoral graduate, not only that he or she is a researcher, but a lot of more experiences. And then this, of course, is also reflected in the career assessment, that this diversity, and also in the role of researchers of society, who are at the same time researchers, but at the same time also citizens who use their freedom also for the best of the whole society.
Wow, thank you very much, Alexander. And indeed, overcoming those differences and finding a way towards each other and doing things together is very valuable. Irina, is there something you want to add, or are you just applauding?
Yeah, I'm just applauding, but I also could add something. Okay, dear Eurodocers, happy anniversary. That's already 20th anniversary. That's really great achievement for Eurodoc. And yeah, just a couple of words about Eurodoc and this anniversary. I've been involved in Eurodoc since 2015. It was in Cluj-Napoca. And it was actually the moment when the senior Eurodocers who were active in the previous 10 years and the new Eurodocers who would be active in the next 5 years were present. So it was, I should say now, the historic moment. There was Ludo, there was Margot, and many others. And that time, it was my first time in Eurodoc, and I was thinking when I was at the AGM and looking at those keepers of memory, keepers of golden standards of how Eurodoc should proceed, what are the values of Eurodoc, what are the priorities of Eurodoc, I was really impressed. I was familiar with the activities of the representation of early career researchers, and I knew the power of the representative organizations, but I was really impressed. And that time I would never think that I would be such like a memory keeper sometime. So at this moment, as a member of advisory board, I should say that now I really understand the value of tradition, the value of statutory principles, goals, which the organization should follow. Eurodoc is a very complicated organization because it is not the organization which is supported institutionally by the universities, also by the universities from which early career researchers come, by the ministries as Eurodoc, neither by the European Commission. So we are self-organized, self-empowered, self-funded, and we are self-motivated. There is no other such organization in the European area, I don't know how it's in the world, which is like Eurodoc. yeah, there were ups and downs, as our colleagues told, but that's also the lessons of our organizations. And I think that we should learn from the lessons from both ups and downs. They are our treasure, they are our history. And in the policy sciences, I'm from social sciences, actually from policy sciences, to be a stakeholder in the policy making means meeting three main criteria. This is representation, so the organization should represent someone, something bigger, not just individuals, but something bigger. Then that's the professional level to contribute to the policy development, and the institutionalization. So that's three criteria, not just the like organization which unites individuals can meet this criteria, because representation of individuals doesn't mean representation. Representation of national associations on the European level is also a very big responsibility for the Eurodoc board, for the Eurodoc president, and also for the working groups. Yeah, but it sounds very serious, but it gives to early career researchers fantastic experience of working in such conditions, being representative of the early career researchers environment. And jumping up to the topic of your third round and what Luda mentioned, that researchers, they are just like dive deeper into their research and they are not engaged into the world which is outside of their lab or of their library. Actually, where I see the difference in the nearest 10 years in the European research area is here. Researchers will stop being in ivory tower. They will stop being just inside their research and disconnected from the world. It was in the past, but it will never happen in the future. Also because of the policies we see, what is we have the discussions about societal engagement. We have the discussions about citizen science. And all the discussions about trust in academia, trust to research, which are everywhere, in every TV program, in every newspaper, every website, because of pandemic, right? So we see this, this is on the agenda, not in the agenda of discussions about higher education or science or research, etc., but it's in the discussion about the society. So I believe that in the nearest 10 years in the new European research area, researchers will be involved in the life of their communities, in the life of their societies, in the life of their countries. They will be able to talk about what they are doing, maybe in the simpler way, without these difficult issues which are not clear to the general public, but using the scientific methods, using the scientific communication. So that's a big challenge for academia, because we need by ourselves change our idea, what is academia, what is their role in the society, etc. And I see the role of Eurodoc here as the agenda setting organization, as very strong, powerful community of engaged early career researchers, which remember what are their goals, what are their ideas, what do they, I don't want to use this word fight because it's quite negative, what do they stand for? What do they want to implement? What future they want to see and they want to create? So that's my also wishes for Eurodoc in the nearest 10 years, and wishes for the next memory keepers of Eurodoc. Please remember and never forget ups and downs. That's our lessons. And we need to get rid of the fear before downs, but just accept them as our precious lessons. Yeah, good luck to everybody. And yeah, PS, yeah, we were joking sometime on Eurodoc meetings that unfortunately we don't have Eurodoc babies until now. So, and Eurodoc families, we have Erasmus babies. It's like official statistics. I don't know how it's in the Marie Curie Alumni Association. Do you have any? So we need to accomplish this beautiful goal: have Eurodoc babies and have Eurodoc families.
Actually, it's sorry, I have to add something about that because it's a really good transition. I was just like listening to you and going through the people that were attending, and I see PNN, and it reminds me of Yertian that was really instrumental in motivating me. I see Adi Akshunyuni, I hear Leone Cavicchia with his fiery anger against, the Italian government. I see DOS, they were amazing. They proved me that you can fight for those things, even the most complicated political situation. What I'm trying to say is like, it's a good transition for what you said, because it's also a personal journey. I am very different as a person because I struggle with you all in Eurodoc, and it will enrich people. It is enriching you, and it really makes you more aware, more I'd say maybe more of an activist, but definitely a better person. So I hope that it will be possible for you in COVID times to do the same. Meeting was absolutely necessary for us to trigger this sparkle. Through mailing list, it was very hard. So I have no idea how you do it right now. Honestly, I'm impressed. Maybe someone can tell me. But please just see that there's more to it. As we say, it's bigger than the university or the country. It's bigger than science, and it's going to be bigger than you, and you get really a lot out of it. So I'm very happy to be here. Maybe in 10 years, more gray hair. Just to the note, you see that? Okay, this started in 2012, so you know. A true, fucking true. I started to have gray hair in 1 year.
Yes,
for presidency,
that's what you get from presidency. That's true. Thank you very much for those wonderful contributions. I would also like to mention what Matthew Tata wrote in the YouTube, and that Eurodoc and the cross-European cooperation it fosters was a good medicine for a British like him who is sad because of Brexit. So thank you, Matthew, for also adding that. Sarah, what would you like to add? We are over time, but we have decided to give it a bit more because it's so valuable at the moment.
Yeah, I know. I was watching also, but as vice president, I really need to current vice president. I need to say something. And often when I go around and introducing Eurodoc, I say that we are the organization that brings real people at the table of discussion at the European level. And it's really nice to hear Ludovic that said exactly the same thing from 10 years before. So it's really the way we do things. And so it's really nice to see that our DNA, it's that. The world is really changing. The pandemic brought a lot of challenges. And I must say that within Eurodoc, I discovered that Europe is even bigger because we have a lot of people in our team, but also in European research that is coming from outside Europe. So we have people from all backgrounds. And I see that really in the big discussion about what Europe and the European Union is, this idea of inclusion is really important. We are really advanced, in the world about the discussion on gender equality, the discussion with about ethnicity, and how to try to make everyone feel included. We still have a lot to do in this, but really I feel that what we are doing in Eurodoc, it's great, not only because we are researching, so using our skills, research skills to tackle these problems and bring them to the tables of discussions, but also because we are people. We are trying to reduce the amount of emails by meeting people in Zoom meetings. It's not the same physically. I never met anyone except those coming from Audi because I started at the end of 2019. So I just got the pandemic. I'm really sorry about that. But I'm sure that I will try to meet people even after I will leave, the inner working of Eurodoc, because it's really a way that made my idea of European broader. I mean, I know that there are many countries, but when you meet people and you know that with those you need to stay really, open and cheerful, because our Southerners are this way. But then you need to be really pragmatic and clear when you're talking with other countries, for example. And it's really all these intercultural skills that will make us feel more at home, even outside Eurodoc in the world in general. So thanks to all for making this a great experience for me, and I think for everyone.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I see a lot of hearts and praises and thanks. And Sebastian, what would you like to add?
Yeah, thanks, Margot. I would like to add that it's been really great to hear the passionate, the intriguing anecdotes from the past, the passionate discussions about the present, also the visionary outlook into the future. And I wish we would have been able to meet in person for this event, also for the audience on YouTube, to see our reactions, our interaction. And I do hope that one of the next events can take place in person. Now, with all the many details and aspects that were mentioned today, I was thinking, for the last, I think, 6 years across Europe, we had this large overarching motto: open innovation, open science, open to the world. And so all the many things that were said, I would like to ask the panel, if you still got the time, and in your ideal vision of the European research area 10, 20 years from now, which brief short motto would you give, just as a catchy phrase in a similar short way to take home?
Yes. That was a clear call to our panel. Anyone who wants to go, just go.
I have no idea. Just maybe what we say when we're doing a PhD candidacy. And everyone knows this one, so I'm not going to be innovative, because it does quite, I mean, it's definitely quite the same for the work in Eurodoc. It's keep pushing. It's never going to be enough, but please keep pushing, just like in your research.
Keep pushing. Alexander, you are also unmuted.
Well, it now really sounds like, I don't know, an Instagram influencer when I say keep the passion, but I would say passion doesn't mean it's always fun, but if you have this connection to something you like, then it will keep you, it will help you and hold you. So keep the passion, hashtag.
Thank you.
And I would say that we should stay ourselves, and then we can change everything.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Mustafa?
Be hopeful. Look at how far we came as a young researchers, fighting for the young researchers issue. So just be hopeful, and all the what other speakers said, basically.
Wow, thank you. I think that's a really nice one also. I guess our last question will be from Deborah before I have Alexander for a short intermezzo, but then we can be able to conclude our session. I will not ask all of the panelists, or maybe after the question, to just think about 2 words to summarize today, or maybe not summarize, because we talked about so many things, from academic freedom to researcher careers, working conditions, integrity, open science, and so on. So Deborah, yes, please go ahead.
Just to say thank you for everybody who answered, and thank you for everybody. And just to say that Jean-Pierre Bourguignon launched a call, and we relay it about early career researcher in all Europe. And as I'm a French from America, and it's about early career researcher and pandemic, to say, keep fight, stay connected.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Okay, so while our panelists are thinking about their takeaway message in 2 words, Alexander?
Yes, Geo, thanks, Margot, for this. And actually, today we sometimes mentioned the institutional memory, right? And one of the best ways to tell the world about the organization and to keep this memory is to contribute to Wikipedia. And let me just invite all of you to, let's say, give some love to our Wikipedia page. As you see, we already have this fast image here, which is from 2019 from Brussels, this beautiful conference before the pandemic, you know. So I really hope that you will be able to contribute here, especially those who are from, let's say, previous generations like Ludo and perhaps Slobodan Radicev and Gareth and other people, nice guys. So please feel free to contribute, and I guess that we will be able to create a very nice information hub for everyone here. Thanks, Margot.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have lost a lot of data. You know, there had been like this massive crash. Yeah, Marco knows.
Yeah. A server that burned down. Wonderful, wonderful that was. Now, let's move on to our takeaway messages. Please just feel free to jump in and keep it spontaneous. To our panelists. 2 words.
It's terrible. How can you do that to us? I mean, it's like the end of the line. You get this. It's like, I've already had done my PhD, please. No pressure. Something in the line of, you know, empower the humans or empower the scientists that we are. So, I don't know. That's the message I want to give away.
Okay, thank you.
I can in 3 words.
Yes.
We are Eurodoc, and please remember about that.
Oh, thank you.
Well, actually my mother tongue is German, and German you can always make 1 word composed of 4 words, and this doesn't work in English, so it's a problem. No, what was really great, I think we saw how rich how many things you can talk when you talk about doctoral education and how many different worlds are joining here. So let's say bring world together.
Thank you, Alexander. And then our last panelist, Mustafa.
That's a bit challenging, right? There are so many good things. What can I say? I mean, think about the impact what you create in the researcher's life. And I mean, personally, Eurodoc was I think not only to me, all our associations like us gave a hope for a better future. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you to our panelists for such an interesting discussion, for their insights, for providing us with hope and everything. I couldn't really say more, but also to our participants and our audience, because what was really clear today is that Eurodoc would be nothing without its members, its national associations, everybody here contributing and being here. So thank you all for that. And now I will leave the floor to our president, Agnieszka Gera, for some final words on the occasion of our 20th anniversary.
Thank you very much, Margot. First of all, many thanks to you for great moderation of our discussion. It was perfect, cozy, professional, and I really loved that. And I'm really happy that so many people attended our meeting, and also many thanks to our speakers. I'm really happy that you joined us, and that is a great pleasure for us that you have found time to be with us in our celebration day. I would also like to thanks to all team which was engaged in preparing this celebration. So many thanks to Alexander, Julia, and Pil, because without you it would be impossible to organize that event. And it was mentioned many times that we haven't met in person, and that's true because with previous board and with the former board, we have never met in person because of the pandemic situation. And I hope that this year it will be possible during Eurodoc annual conference, which will be held from 18th till 19th May 2022 in Vilnius, Lithuania. And I would like to invite you with the conference coordinator, Barbara, who is also present here. I saw you, so you can show up. And the topic of the conference will be building a bridge between research and business. So I'm looking forward to meet you in person, but we will be also prepared to for a hybrid format of the conference. So I hope that everyone who would like to attend will be able to attend, and you are really welcome. And of course, we'll be updating you with more information. Once again, thank you very much. It was a great pleasure to be today with you, and I had a fun. Hope that you too, and hope that we'll meet in the next 10 years at the next Eurodoc anniversary. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
Thanks a lot,
So
and bye.
nice being with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Wonderful.